Well, hello, everybody. Good evening from our Mexican Crossing Lines. We'd like you to share this out. Share it to your friends, share it to your non-friends. It's a really good show. It's really important for you to see it. We're streaming on Facebook Live, YouTube at Duke1517, and on Twitch at A Mexican Crossing Lines. You know, if you would like to spend some time getting to know us a little better, go to our website at kpppfm.com. and have a look around at our old shows, our history, and the things we've been doing for the past 5 years. Also, you'd like to support our work. We're a nonprofit organization. All donations are tax deductibles. Go to kpppfm.com/donate. Make a donation today. Help us keep our shows going on the air, on our lives, and the work we do in this community.
Exactamundo. You can follow us on 88.1 FM Fargo Moorhead on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter at media_PPP. You can follow us on Instagram at Gomez-Schempp. And make sure to share this program. That's the best way you can support us on your own Facebook page, on your own social media.
That's right. And, for what it's worth, happy Cinco de Mayo, the 5th of May. You can see our backgrounds. And whatever you do with that.
Definitely. It's going to be a very interesting show, folks. If you want to leave a comment, you can call us and leave a 3-minute message at 701-566-0917. Or you can email me, Cindy at kpppfm.com, or Duke at kpppfm.com.
That's right. Well, we're going to get into the show. Fasten your seatbelts. Dorothy, you're not in Kansas no more.
Welcome, everyone, to A Mexican Crossing Lines with your host, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding a local color to your airwaves. And tonight, I am going to talk to you about defending democracy. You know, Duke and I were just watching a movie, prequel, I guess, to the movie 300.
Oh, yeah.
Where, you know, Leonidas and his ragtag small group of 300 soldiers defended this, stretch against the mighty Persian army of Xerxes, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You remember that story?
Oh, yeah.
Well, Cinco de Mayo is really a celebration of such a battle. Actually, the holiday that is not a federally recognized holiday in Mexico, which commemorates Cinco de Mayo, which actually means the 5th of May.
Yeah.
So it's just a date on the calendar.
That's right.
That you're repeating.
That sounds cool, though.
It does, but it's the actual battle that happened that is recognized and celebrated. Oh, yeah. Even though it's not federally recognized in Mexico, it's not a day off. Businesses aren't closed.
That's right. Those dang French, in Puebla, right? Puebla.
It was in what was called Puebla de Los Angeles. It was the name of the town, which was changed after General Ignacio Zaragoza led this group of around 2,000 men to fight against Napoleon III's French army in the state of Puebla. You have been in the state of Puebla because it's right next to Mexico City. And this battle took place at a very crucial time in our country's history, in Mexico's history, and in our country's history, in the United States' history. Mm-hmm. Because Mexico was just becoming a country at the time, okay? It had just become a country. It had just had its own independence from Spain. And it was not doing good in the beginning of the newly formed country of Mexico. They had a lot of hiccups, a lot of problems, infighting, people trying to do coups on each other. And, you know, if you think about what just happened this year, January 6th, where we had a coup attempt in our own country.
Oh, yeah.
It really makes me think about the fragility of democracy. How we take for granted how important defending democracy and protecting our freedom to be an independent country separate from authoritarian overlords like we did when the United States separated from England. Same thing happened when Mexico separated from Spain. They had those growing pains, and Benito Juarez, one of the most famous Mexican presidents, because he was an indigenous president, the first indigenous president, a member of the Zapotec tribe in Mexico. He is considered the Beneverito de las Americas, which means the highly glorious or lauded president of all of Mexican history, right?
Wow. And he's indigenous.
He was indigenous. There's a lot of things about this president that people remember. I mean, he's kind of like the Lincoln in the sense that he represented the hope and the pride of this new country built by indigenous people for indigenous people, right?
Right.
There was a lot of infighting in Mexico between powers, and Benito Juarez had to get into debt with the European countries. And he had to default on that debt because the country in Mexico was not doing good. So everyone over there, including the French and Napoleon's army in particular, decided, hey, we're going to go collect. We're going to go to Mexico, and we're going to collect one way or the other. So Napoleon came over, decided he was going to invade Mexico and take over, which in the end, the French did for several years. So this battle, although it was a victory, ultimately the country of Mexico still had a long way to go before it liberated itself from invaders like France on Mexican soil. But this battle represented the hope of what Mexico could be, and a never-ending fight for independence and for democracy to win, for the people to be, to choose who they elect as their leader to lead them. And it was very unlikely because Mexico didn't have resources and the best training. You know who had the best army in the whole world? The French at that time. Napoleon III. He had the best army. So nobody really thought that, including the French, that the Mexicans would be able to defeat them. And this day-long battle in Puebla, it took out 500 French soldiers before they retreated to the 100 approximately Mexican soldiers that were lost that day.
Wow.
Despite them being better prepared, better resourced, and outnumbering the Mexicans incredibly. So, and incidentally, after this battle, which lifted the morale of all of Mexico, to think that this little tiny Mexican army was able to defeat the most powerful army in the world, it gave Mexicans hope that their country would be free, that they had the ability to make themselves independent of European powers. And they did eventually, years later, defeat the invading French army, but not without the help of their neighbors, the United States of America, because our Civil War finally ended, and at the end of the Civil War, The United States put political pressure and gave military aid to Mexico so that they could oust the French, which they did. And then Juarez, President Benito Juarez's army, by the way, during the time that Napoleon dominated Mexico and invaded Mexico for several years, he had installed Austrian Archduke in a castle, like European style castle in Mexico City to rule over the Mexican people.
Yep.
I took you there, Duke. Remember that?
Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. You got to see where they lived.
Yeah, it's great. I've only seen the first floor. All the time it took to go through even the first floor, and there's museums all over the site. It's a beautiful area.
Well, this guy, Ferdinand Maximilian, was captured and murdered. So they didn't just oust the French army. They killed the installed emperor that they had given the Mexican people. And Benito Juarez is recognized, the relationship, the support between our countries, between the United States and Mexico, has always lifted up both countries. In fact, there is a statue of Benito Juarez in Washington, D.C. Because Benito Juarez, prior to becoming one of the most lauded presidents in all of Mexican history, used to be the governor of Oaxaca.
Okay.
And had, because of his activism, because of his, freedom-loving and independence-minded activities within Mexico prior to him becoming president, he was made a political prisoner by the dictator at the time, Santa Anna, who sold a lot of Mexico to the United States.
Yep.
And Benito Juarez had to come and work in New Orleans, Louisiana, at a cigar rolling factory while he remained in exile here for several years.
Wow.
So the relationships are deep. They run deep between our countries. And Cinco de Mayo is a reminder for me of the greatness of what it means to continue to fight for your independence, for your freedom, and for democracy itself. We are living in such a time right now in our country where we are deeply divided, fighting within ourselves, right?
Yep.
Just like the situation that led up to Cinco de Mayo. And we had a civil war of sorts. We had a coup attempt. There are people still, to this very day, that are being investigated and prosecuted. And guess what, folks? There is so much coming out now with the new Justice Department. We are finding out every day, every single day, that our justice was not being served. That our Justice Department was not giving us information that was truthful. I would go so far as to say that it was misrepresentation. But a federal judge said this about what Bill Barr's DOJ told the public about whether or not Mueller's report contained evidence of crimes by Trump. Take a look at this tweet that gives kind of a summary of what the findings were. It says the short version is that the Mueller report actually found that Trump committed 11 federal felonies and that Bill Barr, covered it up. Exactly as many people believed at the time. For 2 years, those who were saying that Mueller's report actually found crimes were treated badly because Barr lied to us, the public, and the federal court. And it says here, from the judge's order, from the judge's pleading, the decision here, Attorney General Bill Barr failed to provide a thorough representation of the findings set forth in Mueller's report. causing the court to question whether Attorney General Barr intended to create a one-sided narrative about the Mueller report, a narrative that is clearly, in some respects, substantively at odds with the redacted version of the Mueller report.
Wow.
What this means is, what the judge said, by the way, is that Bill Barr lied, that Bill Barr was disingenuous to the court. Why is this important? Why should you be paying attention? Never mind that in the last week, Rudy Giuliani's building was raided by the FBI, and that a sitting member of Congress is being investigated for sex trafficking. Okay? Don't notice the infighting in the Republican Party that has the bizarro world scenario where Liz Cheney, Dick Cheney's daughter, is being removed or is going to be removed from committees, from the leadership position in the Republican Party in Congress, because she refuses to lie.
Yep, exactly.
Because she refuses to lie. Because what this judge revealed, what we are learning, is that this cover up, the lying that has been going on for President Trump, it has been going on the entire time. We have been lied to repeatedly, and we are continuing to see the lies repeated about the election results. This isn't just disingenuous, it's dangerous. It is dangerous to our democracy. We are in a very fragile inflection point in history now, right now. And what happens going forward, whether we continue to remain a free and independent country that is led by people that we elected, not by a dictator, an autocrat, or a foreign power, that depends on us and how we treat this moment and how we go forward by combating the lies. Let me read to you something about one of the analysts that analyzed the court order by this federal judge, Amy Berman Jackson. She said she called Barr's actions in the litigation position disingenuous, which is something you almost never hear a federal judge say about any litigant, particularly not someone from the Justice Department, and especially not the Attorney General of the United States of America. If a federal judge calls your testimony before the Congress disingenuous, as Judge Amy Berman Jackson did, I think it's time to start retaining legal counsel. And ideally, someone who can save whatever is left of that tattered reputation that you have. And this doesn't just go for Bill Barr. This goes for all of the attorneys who surrounded themselves with Donald Trump. Continuing this quote from Ketchall, he says, they, the attorneys for Donald Trump, run into criminal liability. You see it, you know. We'll talk about Rudy Giuliani a bit later. You see it time and again. Michael Cohen, all of these other people. Judge Jackson is saying in this opinion, Bill Barr, you testified before Congress. Your testimony before Congress was that you had made these decisions. Now it looks like you didn't actually make those decisions, and this material that you are trying to prevent the American people from seeing, you claimed you were shielding the American people from seeing it because you hadn't made it this decision at the time, which now it looks like you did. Let me explain what this is based on, folks. Because remember that when the Mueller report came out, instead of releasing the Mueller report to the public, Bill Barr testified that he would give a summary of the report to Congress. And basically, he condensed hundreds of pages into 4 pages and then incorrectly told Congress that the reason that they had not released this information was because he was consulting with and was going to be receiving expert opinions about what this Mueller report said and whether or not there was any recommendation here that there was any inkling of criminal activity on the part of the president, and what should be done about it. When in fact, no legal memo advising Bill Barr what to do was ever done. It was created after the fact so that he could say later on that he had relied upon some legal advice from the Department of Justice lawyers telling him the Mueller report doesn't say any crimes were committed. And that was all a lie.
Wow.
When a FOIA request by a group called Crew to see said memo that Bill Barr told them was being prepared and would have recommendations about what the Mueller report said and recommended, he was lying. He was stalling so that they didn't have to release the report to the public. And when they were finally supposed to release the report, he came into Congress and said, I'm going to give you a summary instead based on the memo that was created that tells me there are no crimes and that we don't have to charge the president with any crimes. And it turns out that the Justice Department under Bill Barr had been stalling the release of this memo requested in Freedom of Information Act requests. And Judge Amy Berman decided to look at this memo. She said, you have to release it to me, and I will take a look at it and see if it contains attorney-client privilege or privileged protected information that the public doesn't have any reason to look at. And when she saw it, what she found out was that the reason that nobody wanted to show it to her was because it was fabricated after the fact to fall into line with Bill Barr's lie.
Wow.
To Congress and to the court. So, not only is Bill Barr in trouble, so are all of the Trump attorneys, and they know it. Lynn Wood is another one of these attorneys that is he's on the run. And what is it that all of these people have been propagating since the insurrection, the civil war, the strife in our country that happened on January 6th? The lie about election results.
Exactly.
The lie about whether or not Trump actually lost, which he did.
Yeah.
By a margin of over 7 million votes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reality is now, after the fact, people are trying to whitewash the insurrection. They're actually going to oust Dick Cheney's daughter, Liz Cheney, from her leadership position for not lying about what happened on January 6th. But you know what? Liz Cheney, although I may not agree with her on 99% of what she believes politically, she is defending the Constitution. She is following her sworn oath to protect our country and our democracy. And I respect the hell out of her for it. I respect Liz Cheney. I respect Mitt Romney. I respect any Republican that defends our country's democracy and that decries the people that committed the insurrection. I want you to remember what was done at the insurrection. This letter was sent by Officer Michael Fanone. He was the one that was tased and suffered a heart attack. Okay.
Yeah.
He sent this letter because he wanted to the members of Congress, because he wanted to remind them. He needs to remind you, the American people, our lawmakers, and the people who he was defending that day in Congress at the Capitol, what really happened, because they all seem to have self-induced dementia, self-induced memory loss. This is what Michael Fanone letters said. To all elected members of the United States government, my name is Michael Fanone, and I have been sworn officer with the Metropolitan Police Department for almost 20 years. On January 6th, 2021, I participated in the defense of the United States Capitol, and as a result of my efforts, was severely injured. I was pulled into the crowd away from my fellow officers, beaten with fists, metal objects, stripped of my issued badge, radio, and ammunition magazine, and electrocuted numerous times with a taser. I'm writing to you so that you may better understand my experience that day. I was assigned to the 1st District Crime Suspension Team, and while my daily responsibilities involve combating violent crimes and narcotics-related offenses, I, like many other officers, took it upon myself to respond to the numerous calls for help coming from my colleagues at the Capitol complex. Upon my arrival, my partner Jimmy Albright and I searched for an area where we could be of most assistance, and eventually found our way to the West Terrace lower tunnel entrance of the Capitol. The fight here was nothing short of brutal. I observed approximately 30 police officers standing shoulder to shoulder, maybe 4 or 5 abreast, using the weight of their own bodies to hold back the onslaught of violent attackers. Do you see the symbolism to this Mexico battle?
Yep.
Of this small group of people fighting to save their democracy against thousands and thousands? That is Michael Fanone. That is the Capitol Police. A very, very small group of American heroes saved our democracy, and they literally put their bodies and their lives on the line to do it. I observed approximately, many of these officers were injured, bleeding, and fatigued, but they continued to fight. In the midst of this fighting, I observed Commander Ramey Kyle, cool, calm, and collected, giving commands to his officers. Hold the line! It was the most inspirational moment of my entire life. It's kind of like that, this is Sparta, that...
We are Sparta.
But this really happened.
Yeah.
Right now in America.
Yep.
Okay? This isn't out of a movie. This, what I'm reading to you, is the personal account of Capitol Police Officer Michael Fanone, who almost lost his life that day, fighting for you, fighting for our democracy, fighting for our country. Even as I write this, it brings me to tears. I tried to render assistance to some of the injured officers, asking them if they needed a break. There was no volunteers. Only those that identified injured colleagues who may be in need of assistance. I have never experienced such bravery, courage, and selflessness. Since then, I have struggled with many aspects of that day. As the physical injuries gradually subsided, in crept the psychological trauma. In many ways, I still live my life as if it is January 7th, 2021. I struggle daily with the emotional anxiety of having survived such a traumatic event, but I also struggle with the anxiety of hearing those who continue to downplay the events of that day, and those who would ignore them altogether with their lack of acknowledgement. The indifference shown to my colleagues and I is disgraceful. It has been 119 days since 850 Metropolitan Police Department officers, American heroes, I say American heroes, responded to the Capitol and stopped a violent insurrection from taking over the Capitol complex, saving countless members of Congress and their staff from almost every injury and almost certain injury and even death. The time to fully recognize these officers is now. Sincerely, Michael Fanon.
Wow.
And to Michael Fanon, to Officer Sicknick, who lost his life, to the countless other officers who were injured, who were traumatized, who will never forget this battle, the battle of January 6th for the democracy of the United States of America. Thank you. Thank you for being the heroes that saved our democracy. There is no way that myself or any of the American people can do enough to thank you or to repay you for the sacrifice and the service that you have given our country. And I say all of this because what is happening with these lawyers that lied to America, that lied about Dominion machines, that lied about the election results, that lied about who is the president of the United States and are still lying right now. Did you see Lynn Wood's post on Telegram? The man is cuckoo bonkers. Somebody needs to get a straitjacket and take him to the nest.
That's right.
He's got to go because this is what he was posting. He posted pictures from the White House. Clearly you can see he's at the White House, and he says he got lonely waiting for in this room, the Oval Office, for Joey. So his executive assistant dropped by to keep him company. But Joey, referring to our president, Joseph Robinette Biden, is not here. He is making you think that the conspiracy theory that he and other of Trump's lawyers have been spewing since Trump lost the election, that Trump is the actual president and that Biden isn't at the White House. In fact, he actually insinuates that Biden isn't even alive. Hold on. We'll get to that in a minute. Here's more of his posts saying he's looking at different rooms in the White House, posting actual pictures that people know, if they look at them, are from inside the White House and outside in the garden. So he says, not sure if I can find Joey in the house, so I thought I'd check outside. Yeah. So he's like, mocking the idea that that Biden is anywhere in the White House. And then he goes on to say, but you know who I did find at the White House working way hard, just like you elected him to do? Why, it's none other than President Trump. And he posts a picture that he'd already posted on social media, and the identical picture that he had already previously posted when he visited Trump in the White House over a year ago, as if he had just taken the photo the other day.
Yeah.
And he says on this photo, oh, I was right. There's no Joey in the Oval Office, but I did run into our president of the United States, insinuating that Trump is still president. President Trump is hanging out and working in the office in which we reelected him to serve in a historic landslide victory on November 3rd. And then, as if that wasn't crazy enough, he starts talking about some ghost named Ezra who told him to go find Joey in this location. And if you scroll down, you'll see the location, or the next, the next one, the next picture. No, go back and scroll down. And you'll see that he posts a picture of a cemetery.
Oh, wow.
So he's insinuating that that Ezra, the ghost, told him Biden is dead. He's telling you,
oh my God,
he is furthering the cuckoo bonkers idea that Biden, who you've been seeing traveling around the country giving public speeches, is actually dead. And that Trump is the one running the White House.
Wow.
And these crazy almost unthinkably insane conspiracy theories, like the Jewish lasers that Marjorie Taylor Greene was, propagating. It's not just the QAnon conspiracy theorist crazies anymore. This is a large swath, a large percentage of the Republicans right now who continue to try to overturn a legally elected president. And what's happening in Arizona is nothing short of lunacy. Take a look at the latest crazy thing that's happening. What's the name of the group that they hired? Some group.
Ninja something.
The Ninja Turtles. I don't know. Anyway, this guy is talking about how they're searching for bamboo fibers because of baseless accusations that 40,000 ballots from Asia, from China, were smuggled into Arizona to help to help Trump win. It's true.
Oh my God.
Remember one of the weird things that we saw from the same audit last week was that they were using UV lights.
Yeah.
And that they were asking the election officials there, what was that about? And nobody could answer the question. Remember that? Mm-hmm. Remember this? So they were using the UV lights. You see there, they've got some UV lights in a box inside of a box.
Yeah.
And they're inspecting each one of the ballots because, and this is true, prior, when they were still doing the election audits and counts, which were completely and thoroughly done in all of the states that requested them, there was a conspiracy, a QAnon conspiracy that was floating around that Trump had watermarked some of the ballots with a special watermark so that when people tried to, do election fraud because he anticipated that they were going to do that, he would be able to catch them. So they're looking for these crazy things.
Yep.
They're trying to find things that don't even exist, that are not real. I want you to hear this man, who's a Bernie bro, by the way. This guy is a Bernie bro. His name is Mr. Breaky. Talk about why they're looking for bamboo, shreds of bamboo in the ballots. Take a listen for yourself.
The other day at the press conference, you were talking about bamboo. What was that about?
Well, is that there's accusations that 40,000 ballots were flown in.
To Arizona?
Into Arizona, and it was stuffed into the box, okay? And it came from the southeast part of the world, Asia, okay? And what they're doing is to find out if there's bamboo in the paper. That camera right there, that they take a picture of the ballot, they can really look at depth and find out, is it a hand-marked paper ballot? Because it's a 5K camera. You can see the folds in the ballot because 92% of all the ballots here should have been folded because they came in through an envelope, okay? And so they're doing all sorts of testing to prove if it was or wasn't, and that's very important because the only way you can persuade people on changing is having facts. And we're on a mission for facts. And I'm Audit Elections USA, and what we do is not about the right or left. Audit is an acronym. It stands for Americans United for Democracy, Integrity, and Transparency in Elections. We've been around 17 years. We work all over the country for the last 5 years. I'm in litigation in Florida. I've sued in Alabama. I negotiated in Virginia. I sued in Ohio. And I've been in 18 states just working elections. And I all started because of the Bernie Sanders election in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. I'm the guy who sued the whole state.
He's a crazy guy.
He's the crazy guy that sued the whole state.
Yeah.
By the way, he claims that he is looking for facts.
Yeah.
I mean, is this Blue's Clues? You're looking for paw prints from pandas and hot and sour soup?
Yep.
On ballots to make sure. I mean, this is so racist, by the way, that they're looking for evidence
China.
of bamboo because, of course, bamboo is only grown in China.
That's right.
It can only come from Asian paper.
And they had to come from China. In a sense, they're trying to say they've been bamboozled, right?
I guess. And explain to me how a Democratic Socialists of America adjacent Bernie Sanders bro, who sued the whole state of Arizona and had his case tossed out.
Yeah, it's not very good.
Because it is redonkulous how that guy is now a pro-Trump election integrity dude.
Yeah.
I mean, this is as bizarre to me as Bernie delegate and Sputnik reporter, Russian agent Sputnik reporter Cassandra Fairbanks turned out to be a staunch Trump loyalist. Mm-hmm. Imagine that.
Yeah.
It just doesn't pass the smell test for me. And for most of America, what is happening with these pro-Trump big lie propaganda that is being spread is you're a laughing stock in America. They were talking on Twitter about how literally the auditors are looking for bamboo fibers because of these baseless accusations, and somebody joked that this could only be dumber and more racist if officials were looking for hot and sour soup stains and panda paw prints on the ballots. And it is that bizarre. It is that cuckoo, and it is that stupid. But it doesn't seem to faze those who believe in all of this nonsense. And just so you know, this case, his Arizona case prior, during the 2016 election, and when Bernie Sanders lost, was tossed out. Why? Because the judge said it was neither timely nor adequately prepared. In other words, it was Mickey Mouse nonsense from his Mickey Mouse Bernie Bro lawyer and his in the Bernie Bro client. In fact, during his argument, Kilsey, the attorney, the Bernie Bro attorney for Mr. Brakey, alleged that 100,000 voters were disenfranchised and fraud had been committed. And he paraded a whole bunch of angry voters up to the witness stand. But on cross-examination, assistant Maricopa County attorneys were able to show that most of their votes had, in fact, been counted.
Wow.
Does this sound familiar? This is exactly the same type of nonsense that they did during the 2020 election big lie. They kept saying all of these conspiracy theories about boxes of ballots being shipped in from Asia, and people hiding ballot boxes in the desert, and all sorts of crazy nonsense that they were talking about, making things up, saying people used a marker or there was watermarks or what have you. In fact, these people made up lies. They held fake hearings. Even remember when Giuliani farted COVID at his co-counsel? Yeah, I mean, they held all sorts of for show nonsense, quote unquote, witness testimony. But reality is they couldn't prove substantial election fraud in this election, nor could they in the 2016 Arizona Bernie Bro battle. They couldn't. Yeah. And Brakey, this guy who's there for the election integrity audit, Brakey asked if he could testify as an expert witness in the case. But turns out under cross-examination, he has no formal computer or legal training, and he hasn't published a single peer-reviewed book or an article on this subject. So he cannot be considered an expert, and he was denied the right to testify as one. Good. Because in order to have standing, in order to be able to have a foundational position to speak from, the guy would have had to have knowledge of the law, to have some kind of background in legal training so he could speak to that and the illegalities of what was going on that he was alleging. And or he would need to have a book or a peer-reviewed scientific journal published that established his expertise. The reason why scientific journal publishing matters is because it is peer reviewed by other academics that are experts in the field, that check your math, as it were, that check your scientific process, that decide whether or not what you're saying adds up, makes sense, or holds water. And I have to stop now to brag a little bit about a scientific journal paper that I just had published along with Professor Guadalupe Correa Cabrera and Professor William Yarwoski. I am very, very proud to announce that our paper, and many of you folks heard me talk about the fact that after Standing Rock, I'd learned so much. I was going to be writing a book. I really wanted people to understand and learn from that experience. And because it has so many reverberations, ripple effects in what has been happening since Standing Rock in multiple places throughout the country, and it is even bled into Mexico and has now impacted the migrant crisis at the border. This publishing of this paper has been a long time coming. It took years of work, of collaboration. This isn't even the first paper that we were trying to publish, but it is now published in the Journal of Borderland Studies. It is titled The Eagle, the Condor, and Exodus, New Directions in Political Theater and Border Spectacle, authored by William Yarwoski, Guadalupe Correa Cabrera, and Cindy Azucena Gomez-Schempp. And there is a link to the article. This is the page for the abstract that you can go check out. Gives you a little bit more detail on, a summary of what you can find if you decide to purchase this this paper, this journal. And the background here is William Yarwoski is from a professor from the Department of Anthropology at the University of Texas, Rio Grande Valley, Edinburgh, Texas, USA. And of course, Guadalupe Correa Cabrera is from the Schar School of Policy and Government, George Mason University, Arlington, Virginia, USA. And finally, yours truly, Cindy Azucena Gomez-Schempp. Although they didn't list that I'm also a paralegal, they did credentialize the work done through reporting and investigation for my program, A Mexican Crossing Lines, here at KPPPLP 88.1 FM, Fargo, Moorhead, in this state of Minnesota and North Dakota. So, it's kind of a little bit pricey.
Oh, yeah.
You can get the PDF version of it for about $45.
Okay.
If you're interested, I will be doing programs based on this. So if you can't spend the cash on the report, the paper version of it is $193. And I don't want to forget to, in addition to acknowledging the work of our station, I want to acknowledge the work of Nemo Siqueiros for the months and months that you took out of your life to help build the matrix and to analyze the research and the connections for this, very important scientific journal study on the identifying the key actors and explaining the strategies they utilized in recent border events, including the protest against construction of the Dakota Access Pipeline at Standing Rock, the migrant caravans originating in Central America. And the study also identifies the systematic use of two legitimizing narratives, one being the prophecy of the eagle and the condor, and two being the biblical story of the Exodus. The present work advances new directions in border studies by analyzing borders as magnets for activism. We also have demonstrated the malleability of messaging when shifting operations from one border to another, and it illuminates the effects of standard propaganda techniques combined with new technologies and media platforms in an era of hyper partisanship.
Oh, yeah.
There is a lot to unpack. This
Definitely.
work, I am more proud of this than anything I have authored in the past, whether in books or articles, because it is peer reviewed, it is a study, and it is now published.
And you worked with these academics who have a lot of credentials.
They're experts in their fields.
And this is all the Standing Rock work we did, pulled into a scientific article talking about the propaganda, the spectacle, the illusion, the deceit, the faketiveness. I mean, it's explained in this article, and it gives you the credibility. You've been talking truth since the start.
Thank you, Duke. And we will continue to speak truth to power, to expose what is really happening in the news and in the world for you, the American public, here on A Mexican Crossing Lines. And I want to wish everyone a happy Cinco de Mayo. That's all we have for you this evening. Enjoy a cold Corona this evening, or some other beer of your choice.
Tecate.
Celebrate Cinco de Mayo with your loved ones. And remember in your heart, now that you know more about this holiday and what it means in the context of fighting for your country and for your democracy, hold that idea near and dear to your heart as we fight in this country, in this fragile place that we are in, for our democracy, against the big lie about the election, and for the future of America. Good night and God bless.
Thank you all for watching this. Nice. We appreciate it.